One of the best things about this podcast is breaking bread with other vegans. It's always nice to feel like you're not alone, isn't it? But let's home in on the bread, shall we? Freya Cox is a Yorkshire-born 19-year-old. She has I wonder at what point people will stop starting with your age.
I know.
You know what I mean? I bet every introduction is like, she's 19.
Yeah, Yorkshire. Like, the focus is that.
Yeah, when I introduce Chris Tucker in a second, I'm not going to say Chris Tucker is a lithe young 26-year-old. I don't know how old you are, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, Freya Cox is a Yorkshire-born 47-year-old. She has a passion for vegan baking, which she showcased on the latest series of the Great British Bake Off as their first vegan contestant. Oh boy, that takes some. Well, you're vegan. I mean, nuts. Yeah. Having dreamed of entering the tent from the first series, her hope is that she'll show the British public that delicious baking can be plant-based. And Chris Tucker, he's 26. He's the CEO of Better with Butter, which is an allergen-conscious bakery. Chris can also be seen in the most recent season of ABC's The Great American Baking Show. Wait, is that like The Great American Bake Off?
Yeah.
Wait, what? I didn't realise that. That's so exciting. No way.
Right, so you two are both Bake Off alumni. That's amazing.
Right. That's incredible. Oh, wow. Hi.
Yeah, hi. Hi, fam, from across the pond. Yeah, it's our iteration of your show. Yeah.
Yeah, although I think on your show, everyone's way better than us, isn't it? Like, everyone on the American one's like so good.
I wouldn't say that, no.
No.
No. Yeah.
Chris has also been on Inside Edition, California Live, ABC's On the Red Carpet. What did you leave on the red carpet? I know what you bakers are like. And he was featured in Cosmopolitan magazine for Pride Month. Welcome to you both. It's amazing to have you here. I feel like, people are either cooks or bakers. But you two, I guess you're firmly in the baking camp. Or would you describe yourselves as hybrid, Chris?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. When I did the show, I was primarily a baker, and my iteration of the show was about 4 years ago because of all things COVID. And I have since adapted a full vegan private chefery experience here in Los Angeles. And so I do everything from full vegan dessert bars to going into someone's home and teaching them how to become a vegan to, just doing full private events for people. So I do range the spectrum of being a full private chef and a baker. But I would agree with you that 9 times out of 10 people stick to one or the other.
Right. You had me at dessert bar.
Yeah.
Vegan dessert bar.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Can I lie on it? Oh,
you could. We could do
amazing.
the dessert bar. I would say like on top of you would be better because then things would still be edible. But yeah.
No, they wouldn't. No. I would immediately render them inedible. No one wants to eat anything off me. I guarantee you. I can't believe we got to this so fast. I'm not even drinking. Freya, do you cook as well as bake?
Well, that is absolutely incredible. Like, I just want to go to America now and just like experience all of that. But I was about to be like, oh yeah, I can do like a bit of cooking, but now I'm like, no, I'm just rubbish. Like that sounds incredible. But yeah, no, I do a bit of cooking, but like a good bit of pasta or something. Nothing like too extreme. But I really do enjoy cooking. I would like to like get into it as well. Just anything food, like any form of food, I'm just all here for.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to offer myself as either furniture or a receptacle for any of your creations.
That's so funny.
It's faintly horrific. So let's move on to the questions. Well, the first question is, what's the best vegan food you've eaten recently? It doesn't have to be baked. Freya, what about you?
Okay, so I was actually thinking about this. So like my best friend who's vegan, who was like the reason that I decided to go vegan, we started like a little new hobby where we like went around and like tried as many like vegan food as possible. And like recently we went to like a cool burger place and we had like this bougie burger that had vegan macaroni cheese in it. Yeah, I know, it was absolutely
that.
incredible. Yeah, but then we ended up like going to so many different places after that we got back in the car and we had to turn like the aircon right up because we were like, we've eaten so much food, we were like, we can't drive home, like we can't move. It was incredible.
I've never heard of anyone getting the plant sweat.
Oh yeah.
I've heard of the meat sweats, but
Exactly.
From this vegan macaroni cheese, it was so good. So yeah, I'd probably say that. However, also, there's like in Scarborough, it's not like big city. There's not that many good food places, but there's this little tiny like Italian place that does this amazing like sun-dried tomato spaghetti, and I do think about it like every day. It's just so good. Yeah. So a mixture of all of that, but I'm just the least fussy person going. I will eat absolutely anything. So yeah, as long as it's vegan, obviously.
Sure. And Chris, what about you?
Yeah, there's this kind of our go-to restaurant here in our neighborhood called Crossroads, and we just went recently, and they change their menu up, I would say every 2 or 3 months. And we just went last week, and they had this incredible lasagna on the menu, and it had so many different layers to it. One of them being like this meaty, instead of having like a crumble of any type of, plant-based sausage or anything, it was like a sheet of plant-based meat. So every single bite you had was filled with like this really beautiful, meaty texture and flavor. It was incredible.
That sounds so good.
Sheet of meat. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Sheet of plant meat.
A sheet of plant meat. Yeah, fantastic. I know someone who recently ate lasagna with gravy, which is...
I'd be in it for that. A gravy with...
Would you be down with
gravy
that?
with anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's kick off with some of our listener questions. Thanks so much for your emails. Really appreciate it. It's a podcast@veganlifemag.com. If you've got a question about cooking, we'll field it to the best people. Might not do it immediately, but we'll get there. That's my general philosophy in life. Anyway, Priyanka asks, can I please have a sourdough 101? I said to my dad in a flyaway comment before Christmas that I want to start getting into baking. And he bought me for Christmas a 40-year-old mother starter. Classic dad move, says Priyanka. Only the best. Only the best for my little girl. So now I'm wondering, is it older than your mother? I don't know. Anyway, so now I feel like I can't kill it or make bad bread with it. Please, can you help? Chris, do you have much experience with sourdough?
I mean, the thing with any type of bread, but especially sourdough, is you just have to be super attentive to it. From that starter to making sure you don't kill it, to just all of these little fermentation methods that you have to be, extra diligent with, making sure that you're always using your scale when you're feeding it, and, just really being patient when it comes to actually making your loaf. That would be my suggestion, is to really just always make sure that you are kind of listening to your starter and making sure that you're kind of going with and doing what it's telling you to do, instead of being reactive, just kind of nurturing it.
Okay. I feel like from what you're saying, it's kind of like sourdough is the equivalent of orchids or maybe a Shih Tzu.
Exactly. Or definitely a Shih Tzu. Yeah.
You cannot muck about with these things. Like, you got to dose everything.
Exactly.
Just right.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Okay. And what about you, Freya? Have you done the sourdough thing? I mean, everybody did it, didn't they, in lockdown?
Yeah, well, just going back to that, as in the Shih Tzu, like the dog. Oh, God.
Because they're like really high maintenance. Like you can only give them like 8 grams of food a month, or, you know what I mean?
I've got a Shih Tzu. He's horrendous. Yeah, he's
there you go.
awful.
Amazing.
He won't eat his food. You've got to like spoon food him. Yeah, awful. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I'm on that.
Right. So it's the same principle as sourdough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there has been like a massive hype around sourdough now, hasn't there? So I did make it once. I actually made it for my Bake Off audition. because I was like, oh, I feel like I've got to, you know, push myself and make myself look like I know what I'm doing. So I think I'd only made like 2 loaves of bread at that point. And I did use this like weird technique where you use like green grapes and you like slice them up and then you like put them in the starter. And to be honest with you, I do not know the science behind sourdough, but it worked so good. Well, I think it worked good. So I actually just don't really know what I'm doing, but I would say my best advice would just be just like give it a go. And I think people overstress with things like this. Like I know I agree, you've got to be like really attentive and things, but then, you know, if it just doesn't turn out good the first time, just try it again. I'm just like, it's just a bit of food. Don't panic.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing, I guess, is just keep the mother alive.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't really matter how long it takes you to refine your processes for actual bread making.
Yeah, and the mother is only going to continue to get like better and better and better the longer you ferment it. And so
like all mothers, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, if the first loaf is don't worry, the second one's going to be better because the fermentation is going to be better. And
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Have you two, you know, had any frisbee moments with sourdough? Where you bake a cake, like you bake a bread and it's a discus.
A million.
I made it the once with them green grapes. It was fine. I thought, great, never going to do it again.
Yeah.
My thinking with the green grapes is it about the must on the skin?
No, is it the acid in the grapes because they like way more sour than. I think, to be honest with you, I've got no idea. It was because the other one that I looked at, a lot of the recipes weren't vegan, but then like the random green grape one was. Give it a go.
Mad.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting green grapes.
I'm just coming out with all the random answers.
Next question. Rob says, why is my homemade bread dry? I love that question so much. I mean, it could be anything, Rob. Did you leave it on the radiator? I feel
like I can give a better answer to this one. So, you know, bread sort of like, so my favourite bread to make is like focaccia, right? Which we like did make on the show. And I think when you're making the dough, it looks horrendous. Like it looks so wet. But you've just got to like persevere with it and not just start like adding more bread, more flour when you're needing it. And even if you want to use like a bit of oil, if you're like stressing that it's sticking to the worktop. So I would say, I think your ratio of like flour to wet ingredients might be a bit off. So you probably need like a higher ratio of wet to the amount of flour. And if you are needing it and you are just adding way more flour as you go, stop. Try and like add some oil or use like a little scraper thing. That's my best advice.
Yeah. It's a lightly floured surface, Rob.
Yeah.
It's not a...
Steady on. Yeah.
It's not a dust bowl. Chris, what do you think? Also, like, do flours have humidities? Like, you know, we're always given like quantities of water and flour to mix in bread recipes, but is it something that you should feel? Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, so there's definitely a feeling the more you make bread, the more you understand. Like when you're kneading it, there's a feel when you're like, oh, okay, it's time to stop. Like we've gotten to that point of it's time to rest and let it prove. But, you know, I think that definitely takes a long time to get to that point. That's a lot of bread making to get to the point of just going by feel. I think, you know, with Rob's question, there's several things. I would agree with Freya, like his hydration is probably either off or he's over baking his bread. So Rob, you're going to want to make sure that you're baking with a thermometer and that you're checking your temperature. If you're working with an enriched bread, you know, your temperature, you're looking for 210 degrees. I don't know what that is in Celsius. So you're going to want to make sure
48,000.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just going to want to make sure that you're pulling it out of the oven as soon as it hits the proper temperature, and you're not baking it too long because that could cause it to be dry as well.
Amazing. And when you say like, using a thermometer, is that like embedded in the bread?
Well, there's several different kinds. You can get one that goes into the bread at a certain point once it's risen, and once it's risen in the oven, and you can just set your thermometer to let you know when it's hit that certain temperature, or you can just keep checking it every so often once it's gone to a certain stage.
Yeah, I think there's like a major fear when you're like baking bread that it's going to come out raw. So I think we all probably are way more inclined to over bake it, and then that's why it's like gets hella dry. So yeah, again, just take out maybe a little earlier. I agree.
Yeah.
There you go, Rob. Take it out early. Yeah. Okay. Maisie says, I heard you can make bread out of a Dutch oven. That's like a casserole dish kind of thing, right? To rookies like me. How would I go about this? As I really want to use this for camping trips. Wait, you want to lug a thing like that on a camping trip? Are you out of your mind, Maisie? Was this some kind of endurance thing? Yeah. Chris, have you done any sort of, al fresco baking?
Well, I would not be the one to lug a Dutch oven to a camping trip to make bread, but it's definitely something you can do. I've made many a loaf. It's like a country loaf you would make in a Dutch oven. Maybe even like a no-knead bread you could make in a Dutch oven. They work amazing. It creates a really nice environment for steam. So it's a great thing to make bread in.
Would a no-knead bread be something like what's the one?
Like a soda bread.
Soda bread. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And so I just guess stick it in the glowing embers of the campfire and.
Yeah, or if they have like a little electric burner that gets pretty hot. Yeah, there's a ton of ways that you could do it.
Sure. And just stand well clear of the lid because they go off like a bomb. I'm kidding. That's no. Always though, if you are having some sort of campfire or bonfire, always check for hedgehogs. Because those things go off like nail bombs. Freya, I'm kidding.
I was like, the poor hedgehogs, what are you on about?
I'm kidding.
This is vegan.
I know. Of course we check for hedgehogs. We're vegans. But Freya, have you done any kind of zany outdoor bread baking?
Well, so I always used to go camping all the time when I was little, but we just never would have even assumed you'd make bread when you're there. But I love that enthusiasm. Like, that's just incredible.
Yeah.
I've heard loads of people use the Dutch ovens, and I agree. Apparently they like come out really, really well. I never have done because I think they're quite expensive. But if you've got one, then I'd say totally give it a go. But I just think like hats off to you for wanting to take it all that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing if you really want to do some kind of bready thing while you're camping and you don't want to lug around a 15-pound casserole dish, like pancakey kind of things, right? There must be kind of things you can make in a frying pan or some kind of skillet thing. Chris, I see you nodding.
That would be that's where I would go. I would throw a pancake, in that Dutch oven, make like a Dutch baby. That would be like a big pancake that gets nice and puffy. I would do that over trying.
Is that a real thing, a Dutch baby?
Yeah, it's more of like a souffle pancake that you can make in a big pan instead of, doing individual ones, which might be more suitable for a small group of people on a camping trip. And you don't have to lug a 15-pound, casserole
We're adopting.
dish. Right.
A Dutch baby.
I think
Sure.
I used to just take cans of beans. So anyone doing any of this type of thing, that's impressive to me. Like none of that.
Do check for hedgehogs. Thanks, Maisie, and good luck with your. What else are you taking? Like, dishwasher? Sure, why not? Paige says, "What's the best water temperature for bread baking?" Now, is this is when you're activating your yeast, presumably? Freya.
Yeah. Okay, so I always roll for, I'm not quite an exact temperature kind of person. I always go for the aim of lukewarm. So obviously you don't want it boiling, you don't want to kill off your yeast, you don't want it cold. I just think sort of what you'd feel like when you want to get out the bath. So, like you get in the bath and it's like quite hot, but then like you decide to bail out and get out when it gets kind of like, lukewarm. I'd go for that.
Sure.
I think if I was
Can I just say how much I really love, because the thing with baking is it's all so precise.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you've just, I love
Well, it's
that.
just not really a bit of me, to be honest. The preciseness, I just think I am all for winging it a little bit. But I do think if you're wanting to be exact, I think in Celsius, it might be something like 38 degrees Celsius.
That's literally body temperature, right?
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
Like,
Yeah.
Blood temperature.
So I think
You're right.
but again, I think you're better. You just don't want to be scalding it, but don't want to be cold. A nice luke bath water temperature.
Basically, if you put the water in your bum and you can't feel it,
Fair. All right.
then of course it's unusable. Chris, how do you do it? Do you use a thermometer? Are you precise with it?
I use
or
a thermometer. So I have to tell you,
Okay.
I have to tell you guys the irony of this whole episode. I actually got eliminated from the Bake Off on Bread Week.
No.
So the irony of all of this is just insanity. But that
Your lane goes to rest. This is a great thing.
Right.
This is a
that
closure.
that has really made me, again, because it was 4 years ago now, because 5 years of COVID, it's really made it be it's really made me be super precise when it comes to bread. And so I am with my thermometer, making sure that my lukewarm is actually lukewarm. And in Fahrenheit, that is anywhere between 110 and 115. So that's going to be, I'm not sure in Celsius, just do a quick little Google. But I'm sure
402.
yeah,
I think
I'm
that's
sure
about, I think that's about the same.
about 38. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I hope so.
But yeah, if you, it sound, the bathwater sounds about right. But if you're new to baking, you're into baking bread specifically, you don't want to scald your yeast like Freya was saying, and over 115 Fahrenheit is going to scald your yeast, and then the rest of it's just going to be shit. So you want to make sure that you stay under that 115, but it has to be warm enough to activate the yeast, which is over 110.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel like bread's all a bit, well, you'll forgive the pun, needy.
Yeah.
That's Bread Week was probably my favourite week on Bake Off. Absolutely.
Was it?
Because before I applied, I'd never made a loaf of bread. So I went in just being like, do you know what, I'm going to be horrendous. So you're not even stressed out about it. Now I've just really got into it, actually. I do still think it's a faff and I don't really make it a lot. But yeah.
Amazing. How far did you, forgive me, I did not see the series. And I felt like I ought to, because you were
You didn't see the series? What a cop
I know. How far did
So
you
I
get?
got halfway. So I was like really excited. I got to German week, but I was like, I know nothing about German baking. I'm just like as British as they come. So I was like, oh, it's fine.
Could you just not do the accent?
No, I can't do any accent other than Yorkshire, clearly. So
It's brilliant. Love it. It's perfect. Right. David says, what are the panel's favourite sweetbreads? Now, that doesn't mean lymph glands, which I think is what sweetbreads are. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Who doesn't want to eat those? Is this like enriched kind of thing?
Yeah.
Bun
Yeah,
things,
that idea.
I
So
guess.
I think initially I would always have said I love a good cinnamon roll. However, I did get on, when you get on like a massive hype of something. So I was eating them like every day for ages. And then, when you just decide like, oh, I physically can't eat another one. So I did go off them for a little bit. And now I'm kind of ashamed to admit it because I feel like it's not a very extravagant bread. But if I was to say like my favorite sweetbread, when you get, I don't know if they have them in America. So in our bakeries here, we just get like a random little like finger of bread, and then they just put like water icing over the top, and you just eat it like that. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
No.
It's like a hot dog
That's
roll,
not a
isn't
thing.
it?
Right, you've got to try it.
An iced finger.
An iced-
It's called
Yeah.
an iced finger.
So good. It's not really.
You've never had an iced finger, Chris?
No, we don't have those.
If someone comes up to you in a bar and offers you an iced finger, it's okay to say okay.
I take it. Yeah. I take it.
Yeah.
So honestly, so good. It's just like not an extravagant thing at all. But I just think it's absolutely well. What's not to like about like bread and icing
So it's
together?
it's like a donut almost.
Yeah, but I don't really
but
mess with
so much
donuts.
more-
Yeah.
It's so much more kind of British post-war.
Yeah, it's
okay.
basically just
Where-
rubbish, but it's great.
Like sugar was still an exciting new flavor for most people.
Yeah. So I'd probably say that over a cinnamon roll at this point, and they're just so easy. You can get them for like 70p, and I'm all in for like the cheap stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm really down with that though, because I always feel this, like I love the taste of flour. Like I like the taste of bread intrinsically. I don't have to have stuff on it. And I like the taste of pasta. And, like I live with someone who's like all about the sauce. It's a kind of Jack Sprat relationship. She would drink the sauce from the bowl, whereas I would just eat pasta with maybe a little bit of olive oil and salt. So I'm kind of with you, Freya.
Good.
Just some bread with sugar would be amazing.
Like Chris, try it. Genuinely, you won't regret it.
Okay.
Yeah, come on. I'll give you a nice finger.
Okay.
Chris, what do you like?
So actually, I fell in love with these when I was in London. You guys have the bakery called Fabrique, which they sell these cardamom buns that are just incredible. And so when I got back to the States, I just started making them myself. And it's probably my favorite thing. They're very similar to almost a cinnamon roll, but they're kind of, it's just like an enriched dough, very, very strong with the cardamom. And then it's more of like a braid than a bun. And it has more of a glaze on top than a icing, but so good.
And how do you enrich your doughs as vegans? Because I mean, traditionally you'd like break eggs and milk a cow into it and do all of that stuff. How do you enrich a dough as a vegan, Freya?
Well, on Bake we did like a milk bread. So I always use soy milk because that's like my favorite like vegan milk to put in there. And then obviously,
Thank you. Sister.
Oh, you like soy milk like on its own?
Yeah, I'm so not down with almond milk.
Oh no, don't mess with that. I much prefer almond milk over soy milk normally. But in bread,
what?
Yeah, I know. But in bread, like baking, the soy milk has such a higher protein that it's just way better. So for the bread that works, and then vegan butter, I'm convinced just works exactly the same as normal. And I always found, I don't know if you've they have this in America as well, but like dry coconut milk powder. So people usually put milk powder in the milk bread, and honestly, it was like just game changing. It made it just so like soft and moist. Great.
I have been banging that drum for nearly a year on this podcast. Dried coconut milk powder is the best thing. But always check, because many brands put skimmed milk powder in there.
I agree. You've got to watch out.
But it is a fantastic thing for things like chowders as well, if you want to make a really rich kind of sweet corn chowder. Chris, how do you enrich your dough?
So I do it almost similar. I do use almond milk, but I also use
it's okay.
Vegan butter. You're like podcast end.
Game out.
I also use the vegan butter, and then I actually start mine with aquafaba, and so I whip the aquafaba up to a stiff peak, and then kind of use that as like when I would typically enrich it with eggs. I use the aquafaba instead.
Oh, that is so interesting. I'm so going to try that. So do you put that in once it's already like a formed dough, or just with the flour?
I do my aquafaba in the beginning stage, and then I just start chucking the rest of my ingredients into my mixing bowl and change to my dough hook.
Oh, I'm so going to try that. Cool.
Yeah, I have my brioche recipe, I think, on my website. You can just try it, and it's all laid out.
Oh, amazing. Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, of course.
This is always my favorite moment in this podcast, where I can just kind of and it's two brilliant people exchanging tips and tricks. It's my favorite thing. I love that. That was great. Thanks for your question, David. I always love questions like, what do you like? What's that? I love questions like that. Ahmed says, what are some great ingredients to put in bread? My favourite is sun-dried tomatoes and olives. Also, I have a recommendation to anyone in the London area or visiting. You must try Oliver's Bakery in Borough Market. Their olive oil rosemary sourdough is to die for. I'm guessing no frisbees there. What do you like to stick in bread, Chris?
I mean, olives would be a good one. I'd love to do like any type of like a pesto twist with a little bit of an enriched dough, like layered with pesto is always really nice for me. I mean, I like a savory bread, but honestly, whenever I find myself eating bread that has something else with it, it's usually sweet. So I'm doing the cinnamon sugar, I'm doing the cardamom, I'm doing, something that has a little bit more of a sweet side to it rather than a savory.
This guy is minutes away from an iced finger. I can
I
tell.
know.
Oh yeah. I would. If you could put one through the phone, I would totally be eating it right now.
I am sure that Meta is working on that technology, remote iced fingering.
Yeah.
Freya, what do you like to stick in bread?
So, oh God. So I feel like I would always agree. I am way more of like a sweet person anyway. However, what I did make the other day was a focaccia where I put, like roasted beetroot in it, and then I like covered it in caramelized onion. And honestly, I thought it was game changing. So I put a little bit of like, agave on the beetroot, so it was like a bit sweet. Really, I would definitely recommend trying that. With like a little bit of rosemary on the top. Yeah, I would definitely recommend trying that. Because I have to say, I really wish I could be the person that loved like cardamom and stuff, but I just can't stop tasting it for like 2 weeks after, and it makes me so upset every time I try. I'm just like, I just can't get on board with it.
I'm guessing coriander is
horrendous.
Yeah,
absolutely awful. Yeah, no, even just like the thought of it, like I'm just not a fussy person at all, but anything like that is just not for me.
Truffles?
Truffles, I haven't really tried. I'm not really bougie enough for that, to be honest with you.
Like truffle oil, that kind of
I've
thing.
just never really, don't you think I've ever really tried it?
Like you can get crisps now. It's not that.
It's not that bougie. Honestly, the thought of truffle, I'm like, no, not a bit of me.
Okay, well, if the thought of it is do you make focaccia a lot because you like the bit at the end when you get to go plonk, 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 plonk with your fingers?
I just love the whole bit of it. I just think I like that it's, I like that it takes ages, like the little folds. Me saying I hate bread that's a faff and then I choose like the faffiest one. But yeah, and I just think it tastes so much better than normal bread because it's like really oily. Yeah, just love it.
Can I ask a question regarding truffles?
Of course you can.
So my question would be this. I was recently doing a New Year's dinner and the clients requested truffles, and I started Googling all this information about truffles. It's kind of split 50-50 regarding if truffles are actually vegan or not.
Because they use animals to find them.
Right.
Oh, yes,
Right.
I did actually hear that. That's... Oh.
That's a very good question.
Where do you guys, where do you stand?
Well, it's why I won't take heroin because of the sniffer dogs. No, I'm kidding. What is that literally the only way you can source truffle? Or are there like farmed truffles? That would be the question, I guess.
Well, I guess they grow under soil.
Right.
And the only way to actually find them, I guess, is if you like stumble upon one, or is if you actually have, the dogs looking for them that can pick up the scent.
I think I think what I'd probably say is maybe, if like these dogs have like got a great life and they're like really well cared for, because a lot of animals just love a good job, don't they?
Yeah. And I would imagine those animals are very well taken care of because they're probably getting very good meals and treats for finding those very expensive truffles.
Yeah, so I would probably, although it's such a risky conversation, isn't it? It's like going back to the horse riding and everything like that. It's chaos.
Yeah.
Apparently, female pigs, sows, are attracted to the scent of truffles because truffles contain the pheromone androstenol, which is a sex hormone also found in the saliva of male pigs. I might swerve it.
Oh.
I might swerve it from now on.
Fine. Sure.
Okay.
So you're basically taking female pigs to like the Chippendales, where she can only sniff but never lick. I don't know how I feel about this.
Well,
there are some farmed truffles now.
Okay,
but it's you raise a very interesting question there, and I'm not that crazy about them. So
no, me neither. Let's bail out on them then.
I'm just going to swear.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Shay
says, sorry, go on,
I was
Chris.
just going to say, not to completely detour to a truffle podcast, but,
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting question. And I wished I'd asked Derek Sarno and Eugenia Bone when we had them on our mushroom special. I bet they would have had some input. Shay says, do you have any no-knead recipes? I broke my wrist several years back, and kneading can be such a pain. Oh, wow. That sounds awful. I mean, I'm no Nigel Kennedy, but my wrists are very important to me. What is Chris? Sourdough? Is that the... No, not sourdough. I keep saying that, and what I mean to say is soda bread.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of no-knead recipes out there. I haven't developed a ton of recipes in the bread space, but there's a ton of no-knead recipes out there on the good old Googler. So I would say that's probably a great place to go if you're looking for something specific like a no-knead.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I think there's loads of things you can do with soda bread, because I've seen loads of recipes with like adding chocolate in and things. So I think if you can't knead it, like, don't panic about it. There will be loads of recipes that you can do. Yeah.
What about, because we mentioned it a little bit earlier, how do you guys feel about dough hooks? Like, can you actually use them to completely replace that process if you need to, Chris?
100%. Like, if you think for a second that a massive bakery, even in your local town, that is providing bread to your entire neighborhood every day is doing it all by hand. I mean, they might be over there because you guys are very much more traditional in your style when it comes to baking. But here in America,
and you should see the lads around here, their wrists, unbelievable.
They have massive wrists. Around here, no, it's all done by machine, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. It's just a different method.
Yeah, I have no hate to using the machine, because I don't really like it when you get dough like stuck all over your hands. So I'm all for the machine.
Agreed.
Well, there you go, Shay. That might be something to explore.
Yeah.
Claire says, have you got any alternative flour suggestions to use? Now, I don't know if she's talking about gluten-free or if she's talking about ancient grains. So go wild with this one, Freya.
Well, I've heard that rye flour I think it comes out a bit like sweet and like nutty. So I think if you're like looking for something different than just like a plain strong white flour, I'd maybe go for rye, or maybe like a bit of spelt. I think that I could be wrong, but rye might be a bit lower in gluten as well if you were trying to sort of like avoid as much gluten. So I'd say give that one a go. I'm not the biggest bread pro, but I definitely know I think rye's supposed to come out a bit nicer.
Chris, what flours have you experimented with?
So I do a ton of gluten-free stuff, but I typically will use just like a pre-bought blend. But if I'm doing a recipe that's very specific, I have recently been using like psyllium husk, as well as like sorghum flour and millet and just different things. But again, when you're using those alternate flours, they're really coming in to play very specific needs in each recipe. So I was turned on to this cookbook called Perfectly Baked, and it's by a woman in London, and she does everything gluten-free, and all of her entire cookbook is just completely scientific from start to finish, and why every recipe needs this flour instead of this flour and the hydration. So if it's because of a gluten intolerance that you are curious about different flours, that's a great resource to have. She's, I believe on Instagram, her name is The Loopy Whisk, and she's just brilliant in the information that she shares. So, that's a great resource to go to.
That's a great name. I think, if baking is technical, baking with other flours, that's a whole next level of technical stuff. Because like you say, each one has different kind of elastic properties and absorption and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I also follow her. She seems incredible.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Oh, brilliant.
Her cookbook is
amazing.
Is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we'll try and get her on.
Yeah.
Phoebe says, I feel our bread game in Britain could be better. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to hear about bread from around the world. My question is, what delicious bread have your guests eaten from different countries? That's a great question. Freya?
Okay, so I actually am not that well travelled. I haven't been to that many places. I really want to travel about.
That's because you're only 47.
Yeah, I know, it's the ripe age. But I have been to Croatia, and we like stayed in like a villa, and we like walked down. There's a bakery at the bottom that did like this amazing bread. But I think the whole point, you know, when you're on holiday, you just feel like everything's so much better anyway. So I don't know if this Croatian bread was actually incredible, but I remember it just being like filled with, you know, because you're on holiday, you just eat what you want, don't you? And I remember it being filled with this like cool custardy thing. So yeah, that was just so good. But Italian bread, I think, is just right up there, isn't it? I've never been to Italy, but I thought the British bread game was all right. I didn't realise we were slacking that much.
I gotta say, I'm quite a fan of British bread.
Yeah, I think that listener needs to come over to the States. I thought that when I was over there, I thought the bread was just incredible. Like all the different bakeries had so many different options of bread to choose from, and all the pastries. And I thought your British bread game was phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's very nice of you. That said, Chris, are there any exotic foreign breads that you've tried that you've liked?
Honestly, I don't think that there's anything like out of the box that I've ever had that has stuck with me. I honestly think that the most memorable bread experiences I've had were in London. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Hype the British. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no place like home. Yeah. I've tried a amazing Ethiopian kind of flatbread that is truly incredible. I think it's made with a fermented flour. We talked about it on our world tour over the summer on the podcast. If you go back through, have a look because it's a truly amazing, like it's a thing of its own. It's got a completely different texture to anything I've ever tasted. It's worth a go. I didn't go to Ethiopia. It was a restaurant in Washington, D.C.
Fine.
That's full disclosure. All right. So I don't know. Maybe in Ethiopia it sucks. I have no idea. But maybe it's great. Anyway, Phoebe, thank you very much for your question. Thank you for all of your questions. That's it. We've come to the end. Before you two go, where can people find you and the stuff you do? Chris, let's start with you.
So you can find me on Instagram at the vegan chef Chris Tucker, and then also start there. Everything else is linked. You can just link in bio and go from there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Link in bio. Yeah. And Freya, what about you?
So on Instagram, I'm just Freya Cox and then like _ and then again, you're probably seeing him from there. That's like mainly where I am. But I think my name's the same on everything. So yeah, just there. I'm going to go and follow you now to find this brioche recipe that I'm just so excited to try. I want to go do it now.
Yeah, same.
And there we must leave it for this time. Do subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget that Vegan Life Magazine is online at veganlifemag.com. It's in shops, on magazine racks. And also, we do the social media stuff, Vegan Life _podcast, where we've got extra bits, video clips, fun stuff for all the family, except your Uncle Louis, because he's just not on board with the vegan thing. And that's cool. He'll get there, or he won't. Regardless, we'll carry on. Anyway, don't know what I'm talking about now, making up relatives for you. I'm Jake Yap. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Lots of love. Bye. This has been a Swanburst Media production.